Now let's do the summary of Clostridium. Clostridium is a gram-positive rod, anaerobic rod, and we have like 4 kinds or 5. It's Clostridium botulinum, Clostridium tetani, Clostridium difficile, Clostridium perfringens, and Clostridium scepticum. Clostridium botulinum produces the botulinum syndrome, that is the flaccid paralysis. Could be in the neonate or child or in the adult. In the adult is usually of the ingestion of some alkaline vegetable canned food. So it's ingestion of a preformed toxin, and in the child is ingestion of the spore that then germinates in the GI tract. The clinical symptoms are kind of the same. In child is called the floppy baby syndrome, if it is in a baby, and also the crying is very different. Is more silent, and all the body is going to be flaccid. The patient can have problem with respiration, and is a descending flaccid paralysis. The treatment is the antitoxins of the botulinic toxin, could be from the human or from the horse. Usually for the child we should give the human antitoxin. If it is maybe not canned food or ingestion of the sport, like in honey, but also could be traumatic inoculation of the spore into a wound, and so here we could give some equine antitoxin. In the child we will detect it in the stools, and in the adult in the suspected food. The pathogenesis is Clostridium botulinum binds to the proteins SNAP or SBAP2. These proteins are part of the membrane and aid in the fusion of the vesicle with the synaptic button and releases the acetylcholine, healing the neuromuscular plaque. But if we don't have the releasing of the acetylcholine, because the botulinum toxin is binding to these proteins, that so is inhibiting the release. So the patient presents with flaccid paralysis. Clostridium tetani is the same almost, because it's also a neurotoxin, but this binds to the synaptobrevin protein, the ganglioside receptor, and here we are in a inhibitory neuron, that is the releasing neurotransmitter is GABA or glycine, and when the toxin binds to this protein, now we cannot release the inhibitor neurotransmitters, and so we have contraction. The patient presents with the rhesus sarcoidonicus. This rhesus sarcoidonicus is the apparent smile because of the contraction of the muscles, and the other is the posteriorus. This is the arch of the back that I say it was like cambre, and it could be very painful. We can give first the antitoxin, the perform antitoxin that we have, sometimes the vaccination, and the relaxant of muscles could be for example just diazepam, some benzodiazepine, or something that relaxes the muscles. Alright, next for Clostridium difficile we have the B toxin. The B is cytopathic toxin that destroys the cells, and the A damages the mucosa and attracts the leukocytes. We have destruction of the red blood cells, platelets, white blood cells, endothelial cells, and this goes into increasing the permeability of the blood vessel that can go to hypotension, shock, bradycardia, and so this could be a very serious problem. So the patient, if we cannot control it with vancomycin or vancomycin, metronidazole or fixidamina, that fixidamine is a enzyme that inhibits the RNA polymerase of the bacteria. Alright, and is part of a macrocyclic antibiotics. Alright, so if we cannot control it, we can do a fecal transplantation. And this is usually when we have also the pseudomembranous colitis. These pseudomembranous are yellow plaques in the colon composed of fibrin and mucus, and also produces a watery diarrhea. The diagnosis is made with PCR or with antigen detection of the toxin. The antibiotics that produces these are inhibitors of the proton pump, proton pump in the GI tract, the clindamycin, penicillin, and sometimes fluoroquinolones and aminoglycosides. The Clostridium perfringens produces two kinds of disease. One is the gas gangrene, that is a myonacrosis, and the other is a self-limited diarrhea. This is just watery diarrhea, and this is because produces the lecitinase enzyme that destroys the enzyme, the membrane of the cells, and produces also a double zone of hemolysis in the culture. Also would look like spotty fermenting in the milky medium, and the test is egg yolk test agar. This is in one side of the agar we put antitoxin of the Clostridium perfringens, and in the other we leave it like that, and we will see the reaction of the toxin in the place in which we do not put the antitoxin. This bacteria, because it is an anaerobic bacteria, produces CO2, and we could smell that, or could also feel like crepitus. Here we could also have elevation of the glucose, white blood cells, destruction of red blood cells, destruction of white blood cells, hepatotoxicity, so we will see elevation of aminotransferase enzymes, and we could see anemia too. Next, the Clostridium Scepticum. This is a similar presentation, a myonecrosis, but it is non-traumatic, and it will also present with hemorrhagic bulla in the skin that is characteristic of non-traumatic Clostridium infection myonecrosis, that is of Clostridium Scepticum, and it is also associated with colon malignancy, and so we should be very aware about this malignancy, and could also lead to shock because penetration of the GI tract. And I forgot, in Clostridium botulinum we have the high rate firing of the nerve that increases the concentration of calcium at the end of the synapses, and so we have a release of the acetylcholine, so it improves the patient. And the other, the repetitive stimulation of the nerve, inhibits the release of acetylcholine, so this could go further in the patient. This could worsen the situation of the patient.